There is another operator that is used extensively within SQL. It's called as the like operator. Let's see how like is used with the help of an example. So the question here is to find the number of copies of this particular film called as Inkjet, sorry about that, which exists in the inventory system of a particular store. It's the store number 2 in this case. So for this, since it's asking us to find the number of copies of the film, we'll obviously need the inventory table. And since it's also asking for the name of the film, we'll need the film table here as well. So let's have a look at the inventory table first. The inventory table contains, of course, the inventory IDs, the film IDs, as well as the store in which that particular movie, rental DVD is present. So in this case, we just want to see for store number 2. So we'll keep that in mind while we write the query. And the film table contains the title of the film as well as the film ID. So you can see here the film ID is common to both the film table as well as the inventory table. It's the primary key in the film table and the foreign key in the inventory table. So we can use that for joining these two tables. But before we join these two tables together, it's important to consider the kind of join that we want to make, and also if we want to join these two tables as they are. Now let's see what I mean by that. So let's see what columns we require in the first place. So since it's asking us for the number of copies, we'll require a derived column or a manufactured column called as number of copies. It's also asking us for this particular film. So we'll need the film name and we'll need the number of copies against that film. Film name is only present in the film table over here, and the number of copies, as I mentioned, will come from the inventory table. So let's deal with the inventory table here first, because that's the meat of the problem. That's what we need to solve. So in the inventory table, we have the inventory IDs here. What we ideally want is to count these inventory IDs against a particular film or bunch of films, depending on how many are there. So you would find that there are about 1,000 films within the inventory table. I think it's the same as the number of films that actually exist. So let's get to work on how to find the number of copies of the film Inkjet in the inventory table first. So if you followed my earlier videos, this should be simple enough. So we do a select from the inventory table. Sorry about this. We'll obviously want to filter out only the stores with IDs 2. And then we would group it by the film ID. So we group it by film ID. And then lastly, we would want to see what is the count of the number of copies of the film. So I would just do a count inventory ID and then do as, give it a column alias as copies. So once we have this particular table with us, we know that what's the film ID and the corresponding copies or inventories of the film. And this is what we would need to join with our film table. So let's just give this, let's just give this alias as I. It makes more sense to name this as I rather than this, because we really won't be needing the table alias over here. We'll be needing the table alias of this entire derived table. So once we have this derived table with us, all we need to do is join the film table onto this table. Here we can use an inner join, because we would only want to compute or calculate the number of copies of the film if they exist in the inventory table. We don't want to calculate it if they don't exist within the inventory table. Let's name this as F, and let's see what we want. So from the table F, we want the title, and from the table I that we had over here, we'll join these two tables on the film ID, like I mentioned before. So this would be f.film ID would be equal to i.film ID as well. So now we want to filter out copies for this particular film. So if I just run this query as it is, it will give you the film title as well as the copies of that film for each of the films within the intersection of these two tables here, because we've used the inner join. So if I just run this, it should give you for each individual film what is the copies or the number of DVDs in store number 2 for that specific movie. If you want to find out for the particular film called as inkjet, we'll introduce a where clause here. So the where clause will specify the film name, so f.title. Here I'll introduce an operator called as like. So let me first just write this down. So okay, so what this means is, in a sense, whenever f.title matches this particular criteria over here, it will filter out those particular rows, or it'll show you those particular rows. So let's run this, and there you go. So the title of the film would be inkjet, number of copies is 4. Now there are some modifications to this that we can do that I'll explain to you in the next video.